Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to do a really simple stone mandala. We're going to do some blended color on the background, and then we're just going to choose a one color mandala to really get the basics down of the structure and some of the techniques, and then that way we can start building on colors and patterns and all of that kind of stuff as we go along. But I thought, we'll just start off with a basic simple mandala to get you started today. Okay, we're gonna take you down here. I'm going to show you how to do the blended color on the stone first, and then we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to choose our color for our mandala. Okay, so here's my stone. You might recognize the stone from when I taught you guys how to do the mandala stencil, but we're going to cover that up today and use this stone for our video today. So I have chosen this beautiful dark turquoise and purple. These are kind of my two of my favorite colors to work with. If you want to know what colors they are, this one is a deep sea green by Craftsmart, and the Fun Fuchsia by DecoArt. So those are my two colors, and if I can find those on Amazon, I will post them for you just so you can see and remember what those colors are. So I want to do a blended color on this stone, so I'm going to do half one color and half the other and blend it in the middle so that it really pops. I think I'm going to do the white for the mandala. So white or black, I haven't decided yet. Let's see, it'll be a surprise. So let's see here. I'm going to start off with my turquoise, and I'm just going to add paint on this side. I'm going to do the bottom actually black, I think. So I'm not going to go, I'm going to go down pretty far, I guess, like, but I don't really need to do the full bottom because I want the bottom to be black. So this is probably going to need 2 coats. So I'm going to do just this part first, and then when I do our second coat, I'm going to blend the two together. But I just kind of want to get this first layer, and I will use a bigger brush when I'm doing the blending layer. I just want to get a base coat on here. Okay, so my first layer is dry. I just kind of took the blow dryer to it, and so we could get it done. And blow dryer can be your best friend sometimes when you're wanting to get a project done. So here we go. We're going to do our second coat. This is going to be our blending coat. So what I'm going to do is I just want to add some paint onto one side here. And I'm going to add my other color on this side. And I'm going to take my wider brush. This is, I think, inch and a half, maybe 2 inches. And I'm going to start. I'm going to add some of my turquoise on one side, and I'm adding pink on the other side of my brush. I might actually add a little bit more from my pots here. So you can see my brush has one color on one side, one on the other. And I'm going to, so the edges on this side can be done with the other paintbrush. But this is more for where we're going to blend our two in the middle here. why we want the wider brush, because we want both colors on that brush. So we're gonna have a nice blend in here. So we're gonna just kind of go back with just slightly moving it from one side to the other. So we're picking up on some of those colors and getting that blend in there. See how that pretty that looks in the middle there? We're getting some really nice blend of colors between the two. Kind of getting a darker purplish color. That's pretty. Try and kind of keep it in the center a little bit more here. To bring my pink over here, my purpley color, fuchsia. There we go. And you just kind of keep going until you're happy with that blended middle part. A little bit more. Okay. And then you can take your paintbrush that has just the one color on it, get those ends in, pretty all that up. Make sure you got good coverage all the way around. Okay, so now we are going to let that dry. Okay, so our stone is now dry, and you can see on the back I haven't done much with it. So right now I'm going to actually do the black bottom, just so then I have guidelines too of where I want my mandala to end on the top. So again, I'm going to use my Fiskars stencils because I love these things. They're just super helpful. I have the circles, well, I have all of them, but keep them in just a binder, which is cool because I just have them all in a funky little binder, and so I can have access to them at any time. So, I mean, you can eyeball it for sure if you don't have, I think this one's gonna be too big. Yeah, you can just eyeball it and paint a ring around it if you like. I'm going to use this here, and we're just going to go all the way around, create a little, and then I'm going to take my little bit of black paint here, and I'm just going to create, using my guideline there, I'm just going to create my black bottom. Okay, so we have our stone here, now it's fully dry, and as you can see we've got the color blending, and I've also gone all the way around the back, all the way around the sides with my black, and that's kind of finished off the bottom there. So we are going to find our center point for our stone. I'm using my flexible fabric measuring tape. It just helps to go around the stone a little bit easier. So what I'm going to be doing is finding the center point between my oval. So as you can see, that oval stencil really helps to create that balance. Again, you can eyeball it for sure, but sometimes it's kind of nice to have those guidelines. So I'm just finding my center point here. So let's see here. Okay, so with my pencil here, just marking off my center. Now, so I'm not going by a template today. We are just going to wing it and see where this takes us. So we're just going to use white. Again, I just want to kind of do a basic pattern so that we can get used to creating those mandalas, and then we can start getting a little bit more complicated when we start bringing in colors and different color palettes, which is always fun and exciting. So I'm going to take my handy pencil tack tool that I love, and we're going to just create our first or our middle dot. Okay, so here is our center circle. Again, you want to make sure that that's really center and perfect. If you need to pause the video at any time too, tend to do that, because we all go at our own pace, and it's one thing I learned at the workshops that I did was everyone kind of does their own thing, goes at their own pace. So feel free to just pause it and take your time with it if it's going a little bit too fast, or if you just need to fix things up a little bit. So I have got my tools here that I love. What you can just do is choose tools. You got your toothpick, your really tiny one. Choose a couple different varieties of tools. Another thing that I also learned was that you can have the same tools and the same paints and the same stone, and everyone's is going to look a little bit different, which is what I love. So I can't really say exactly what size these are. So just gauge it by having your toothpick and then kind of go up from there. Have about 4 or 5 different sizes, and you can follow along and make it your own as well. So I'm going to take it's basically my second size up from my little one here, and after you've created your center circle, you want to do a top, bottom, left, right dots in order to create the start of your pattern. So I haven't drawn out circles with my compass on my stones. Sometimes I do, other times I don't, depending on what I'm doing. My paint is still fairly fresh with doing the video, so I'm a bit concerned that if I use my compass right now, it's going to start peeling off some of my blended paint, because usually you need it a couple days to really cure to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. So I am going to we're just going to do it here freehand. And so now we are going to take our same dotting tool and we're going to go in between each of these ones, right in the center of each. Now you may only be able to do that many if you've chosen a larger tool, if you don't have any spaces in between, or you may have a lot of space if your tool is smaller. So this is where you're going to be able to do a little bit of free play, I guess you could say it, and do your own thing. So if yours is looking pretty similar, we're going to put a dot in between. If you've got quite a bit of space, you can do 2 dots in between. Just kind of what you're really wanting to do is create an even circle all the way around. So as you can see, we've got an even circle and an even amount of dots. You want to have an even amount of dots. Okay, as you can see, I've got a tool that's just a little bit bigger than the one I was using to create these circles with. This one that I had here was probably just a little bit too big. So you want to have ones that are varying slightly bigger than the one before it. So now we're going to take this tool that's a little bit bigger, and we are going to go in between these dots. So there's a little valley, right? There's a little valley that's created between the circles, your little V shape. So you're putting your dot right snuggled tight into that little valley. You can see these dots are a little bit bigger, not too much bigger, but a little bit bigger than the ones in the ring before it. So whether you have more or less dots at this point, you're going to do this, and then we're going to go in between as well. We're going to go back so that each little valley has these dots that are a little bit bigger. Now sometimes you're going to have, especially when you're working with stones and you have some little divots in your stone, sometimes those dots don't end up being perfect. So you can take your little toothpick and just kind of bring that paint out with that divot there. Okay, so we've got our second ring onto our stone here. And now we are going to create our third ring. So again, we're going to take, actually we're going to go up 2 sizes, I think here. Yeah, we're going to go up 2 sizes for this next dot. Now this one, we are going to just do every second dot. You can see these ones are quite a bit bigger. But again, we're going right into that valley at every second dot. Okay, so now where we're going to have a little bit of fun is we're going to take our toothpick Actually, before we do that, we're going to take one up from our toothpick. So it's not quite as small as a toothpick, but it's not too much bigger. And we are going to take our white paint, and we're actually going to create a dot in the center top. This is going to just give us our starting point here for when we're going to make our dots all the way around these big dots. Okay, so we've got our top dots there. And now we're going to take our toothpick, again, taking some of our white paint. And we're going to start on one side of this top dot that we just did. And we are going to create our descending dots. So you're dipping only really one time. These dots aren't too big, so you're probably not going to need to do 2 dips in this. You're just going to be doing 1. You can see that there. And we're going to do one side of the dot at a time in our sequence here. So we're going to our next dot, and we're going to do the same thing. One dip, and on the top or on the side of our top dot, and we're just bringing those dots nice and snug around that bigger dot. There. So now we're going to do it on the other side. The exact same thing. We're going to start at our top dot on the other side, and we're just going to bring those dots all the way down and around. And there you have it. So we've got all the way around with our tiny little dots. And now we're going to do that a second time. So we're going to take our little dot here. Actually, what we're going to do now is we're going to move our toothpick aside. The dot, or the side that we used for our main dot on this one, we're going to go one size up to create a dot again on top of that big circle, but we're going to do a slightly bigger dot. Because we're going to be covering more area here with our descending dot, we want to use a slightly larger tool than our toothpick. So we've got our main dots again, and now we're going to take the tool, the size that we used for that big dot the first time around. That's what we're going to use for our descending dots. So we're going to take our paint, and we're doing the exact same thing. We're going on the side of the big dot and bringing those down. Again, you're probably only going to need to dip your paint once. If you need to do it twice, just start again at the top so that you're not creating a larger dot down below. You want to make sure that you got your smaller dots on the bottom. So you want to make sure you have less paint. If you are halfway down and you run out of paint and you want to create those smaller dots, just take your toothpick and finish off those dots on the bottom, because that will create the smaller dots for you without worrying about having too much paint on the one that you're actually using right now. Okay, and now we're going to do the other side as well. Okay, looking good, hey? You should be feeling pretty proud of yourself right about now and how amazing your stone is looking. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little fancier touch here. I know we said we were going to do a basic pattern, which we are, but this is going to just give us a little bit of a fancy edge to it. I did show this little technique when in the tools video when we were talking about the tools. So we're going to take our smaller one, the one that we were actually just using for our dots, and we're going to take some of our white paint, and you're going to start about halfway up in the V. We don't want it all the way up, we just want about halfway up in this V that's being created by our mandala petals, I guess, kind of. So we're going to take and we're going to drop our tool down to create our dot, but we are going to drag it down slowly so that we get to our center of our V. And we're going to do it on this side too. We're going to go about halfway up, drag, drop and drag. So we get this little cute little V shape in these valleys. And you're going to go all the way around, so halfway, drop and drag, drop and drag. You don't need too much paint, because otherwise you're not going to get that nice tail basically at the bottom where we have less paint. Okay, so now we've got our little V's in our valley there. Okay, so now we've got our little V's here. We are going to take our main dot size. So this is my pencil with a tack in it. And I'm going to get some of my white paint. And in each V, in each valley, I'm going to snuggle one of these bigger dots. It's just going to rest right in each of these little V's here. So you'll notice I'm dipping after each one because I want these to be all the same size. So if you want your dots to be evenly the same size, you're going to want to dip after each time so that you have the same amount of paint. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to take our tool that we use for that second layer of descending dots, our top big dot there. We're going to do the same thing on each of these. We're going to create that top center dot that's going to give us our guideline for our next descending dots. And then we're going to take our tool that's one size down from that we used for that last layer of descending dots, and we're going to do the exact same thing again. So we're going to take our paint. And we're going to go all the way down to meet that V on the bottom. Okay, and we're going to do the other side as well. Okay, we are almost finished here, people. Okay, so we are going to now take our stone, or our tool that is the same size as these ones that we made right here. And we're going to take our paint and we're going to just create a dot right in the middle on top of our descending dots dot there. Just kind of fill in that space a little bit. Don't worry if some of your spaces are slightly bigger or smaller than others. You can adjust your dots slightly to fill in that space, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so now we're going to take our tool that created that second row of dots, and we're going to create this. So we're going to do a dot on each side of these dots that we just made. And then we're going to do a dot in the middle. Okay, so we're going to just do a couple little filler dots, and then we're going to be finished this stone. So I'm going to take my tool that's just one size bigger than my toothpick. And I'm going to get some, this is where you can play with this now. So you're going to know whether or not you've got some space here to fill, or whether your dots are pretty close together and you want to just leave it as it is. I know for me, I've got a couple of spaces here that I'd like to fill in just for a little bit more body in my pattern. So as you can see here, I've got some spaces in here. So I'm just going to add in a couple little dots all the way around. Now, if you don't have spaces in there as much, then just leave it. Or if you've got some bigger spaces, you can use a dotting tool that's a bit bigger, just to fill in a little bit of your space. Okay, well, I think that this one is pretty much finished. And so you can see here, I'll take a picture of it as well to post on the video. But we are all finished, and next time we'll add some color, but hopefully this gives you a bit of an idea on how to create a pattern. And I find that using one color to gain that experience and that skills gives you a bit of an easier advantage when you're adding color later on. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you'll subscribe. I'm going to bring you actually up this way a little bit. I hope you will subscribe so that we can do the next painting together as well. And again, if you have any ideas, any thoughts about what you want to do for a tutorial, anything that you want to learn, please leave a comment below, and I'd be happy to do a tutorial for you. I will also post a link for the Fiskars stencils if that's something that you're looking for as well, to add to your tool collection. So we will see you next time, and I look forward to carrying on this adventure with you, and let's do this dot painting together.